Clutter isn't just about mess, it can quietly harm your health in ways you'd never imagine. What if I told you the piles of papers on your table, the bags in your hallway, or even the stacks of books beside your bed weren't just clutter, but silent health risks, raising your stress, straining your heart, clouding your memory, even putting your safety at risk? Most seniors think clutter is harmless, just part of life. But experts warn that ignoring it could be costing you more than peace of mind. It could be costing you years of comfort, energy, and independence. And here's the truth. These risks often stay hidden until it's too late. That's why in this video, we'll uncover the silent ways clutter steals your health and how one small change today could protect your future. So stay with me, because if you skip this, you may miss the one piece of knowledge that could make your senior years safer, lighter, and healthier. Ruth was 76, a retired teacher who had always loved her little home. Every corner told a story: shelves of books she once read to her students, stacks of magazines she swore she would get to one day, and piles of letters and keepsakes from friends and family. To visitors, her house felt warm and lived in. To Ruth, it was comfort. But slowly, the clutter grew heavier. She didn't see it happening. A few more papers here, an extra bag tucked there, an old chair she couldn't bear to let go of. It didn't seem dangerous, just untidy. But Ruth began noticing changes she couldn't explain. She was tired all the time. Her chest felt heavy. She worried she was getting older too fast, maybe even sick. What Ruth didn't know was that her home, the very place she thought kept her safe, was quietly working against her. And Ruth isn't alone. Many seniors never realize the hidden health risks tied to clutter until they've already paid the price. That's why this conversation matters. Today, we'll walk through the silent dangers clutter can bring into your life, the science behind them, and most importantly, how you can take back control, just like Ruth did. Have you ever walked into a room filled with clutter and felt your shoulders tighten, your breath shorten, or your mind scatter? That's not your imagination. That's your body responding to stress. Science shows us that clutter raises levels of cortisol, the stress hormone. For younger people, stress might just mean a racing heart or a restless night. But for seniors, high cortisol can trigger far more: higher blood pressure, disrupted sleep, fatigue, and even greater risk for heart problems. Ruth felt this every day but didn't connect the dots. She thought her constant tiredness was just aging. She told her daughter, "I feel like I'm carrying a weight I can't put down." The truth was, that weight wasn't just in her body, it was in her environment. Every pile of paper, every cluttered corner sent silent signals of unfinished tasks, creating a loop of stress that her body never escaped. And here's what makes it dangerous. Chronic stress doesn't just affect the body, it clouds the mind. It makes you feel foggy, forgetful, and anxious. So when clutter surrounds you, your body isn't just overwhelmed, it's under attack. But the good news is, breaking this cycle doesn't take a full house clean-out. Even clearing a small, visible space can lower stress almost instantly. That's the first step Ruth discovered, and it changed everything. Clutter doesn't just weigh on your mind, it fills the air you breathe. Piles of clothing, boxes stacked in corners, or papers left untouched become magnets for dust, pet dander, and even mold. For younger people, this might just mean a sneeze or two. But for older adults, especially women with asthma, allergies, or weaker immune systems, the risks are far greater. Ruth didn't realize this until her constant coughing spells started. At first, she blamed the winter air. But when her doctor asked if her home had clutter or dust buildup, it hit her. Her cozy piles of belongings weren't just taking up space, they were polluting her lungs. Research backs this up. A study from UCLA found that families living in cluttered environments had higher levels of dust and poor air quality. Over time, this can lead to chronic breathing problems, more doctor visits, and a constant feeling of fatigue. For Ruth, the change came when her daughter helped her clear out one overstuffed room. Within weeks, the air felt lighter, her coughing eased, and she even noticed she was sleeping better. And that's the quiet truth. Clutter can become a health hazard you inhale every single day. Clearing it isn't just about tidiness. It's about giving your lungs, your body, and your energy the fresh air they deserve. For seniors, one of the most overlooked dangers of clutter is something simple, yet life-changing: falls. Did you know that a single fall can steal independence in an instant? Studies show that falls are the leading cause of injury among older adults, and clutter only multiplies the risk. Ruth experienced this one night when she tripped over a stack of magazines in her hallway. Thankfully, she wasn't badly hurt, but the scare stayed with her. She admitted later, "It made me realize my home wasn't as safe as I thought." And she's not alone. Thousands of seniors end up in emergency rooms each year because of cluttered walkways, misplaced cords, or overfilled rooms that turn daily living into an obstacle course. The heartbreaking part? Many of these falls are preventable. Simple changes, clearing pathways, removing piles from the floor, and ensuring furniture isn't blocking movement, can drastically reduce the risk. When Ruth finally cleared her hallways and created open, safe spaces, she told her daughter, "I walk with confidence again." That confidence is more than peace of mind, it's protection of independence, mobility, and dignity. So, when we think about clutter, it's not just an inconvenience. It's a hidden hazard that can change life in a single moment. Clearing it is one of the simplest, most powerful steps you can take to protect yourself. Sleep is one of the body's greatest healers. But clutter has a sneaky way of stealing it. Studies show that people who sleep in cluttered rooms are more likely to suffer from insomnia, restless sleep, and even nightmares. Why? Because the brain never fully powers down when surrounded by visual chaos. Ruth used to describe her bedroom as cozy, but in truth, her nightstand was piled with books, pill bottles, and half-empty teacups. Clothes draped over chairs reminded her of unfinished chores, and the stacks of papers whispered, "You still have things to do." Even when she closed her eyes, her brain stayed on alert. This isn't just emotional, it's physical. Poor sleep affects memory, immune strength, and heart health, and for seniors, those effects are even more serious. The National Sleep Foundation has linked cluttered bedrooms to higher rates of poor sleep quality, showing that the environment you rest in directly impacts the way your body restores itself. When Ruth finally simplified her bedroom, keeping only her lamp, a photo she loved, and her glasses on her nightstand, she noticed something profound. She began falling asleep faster, staying asleep longer, and waking with more energy. She laughed one morning and said, "I didn't know peace could feel this simple." Clutter in the bedroom isn't harmless. It's a nightly thief of rest and recovery. But with small, intentional changes, your sleep and your health can be reclaimed. Clutter doesn't just take up space on shelves, it takes up space in the mind. Researchers at Princeton University discovered that a cluttered environment makes it harder for the brain to focus, process information, and switch between tasks. In other words, clutter clouds clarity. Ruth often felt this fog. She'd misplace her glasses, forget where she left her keys, or struggle to finish a simple task because her mind was distracted by the piles around her. She confessed to her daughter, "I thought I was losing my memory, but maybe I was just losing myself in the mess." This fog isn't just frustrating, it can be frightening. For older women especially, forgetfulness can spark fears about dementia or cognitive decline. But sometimes, the culprit isn't the mind at all, it's the clutter demanding attention, silently draining focus. When Ruth began clearing small areas, a kitchen counter, a drawer, her nightstand, she noticed a shift. She could think more clearly. She remembered things more easily. Her daughter even noticed she was more cheerful, less weighed down. And that's the hidden truth. Clutter isn't just physical, it's mental noise. It fills the mind with distraction, steals focus, and makes everyday life harder than it needs to be. By removing the mess, you're not just clearing a room, you're clearing a path back to mental clarity and peace. Clutter doesn't just weigh down your home, it weighs on your heart. Psychologists have found that cluttered environments are strongly linked to higher levels of stress and even symptoms of depression. For seniors, this emotional toll can feel like an invisible burden pressing down day after day. Ruth once admitted that walking into her living room made her feel defeated. The stacks of newspapers, the crowded shelves, the knickknacks on every surface, they all seemed to whisper, "You'll never get through this." She wasn't just looking at clutter, she was feeling the weight of unfinished business, regrets, and the passage of time. Researchers at UCLA Center on Everyday Lives of Families found that women living in cluttered homes had consistently higher cortisol levels, the body's main stress hormone. Over time, this stress doesn't just affect mood, it impacts physical health, making it harder to cope with everyday challenges. But here's the hopeful part. When Ruth began letting go, even just a little, she felt lighter. She told her daughter, "It's not just the house that feels clearer, it's me." By donating unused items and simplifying her space, she experienced a sense of accomplishment, control, and peace that clutter had stolen from her for years. Clutter may look harmless, but emotionally, it drains joy, increases stress, and clouds hope. Clearing it is more than a household task, it's an act of self-care, one that brings emotional freedom and renewed energy to life. Clutter doesn't just affect how you feel inside your home, it can quietly push you away from the people you love. Many seniors hesitate to invite family or friends over because they feel embarrassed by the state of their space. What starts as a little shame can grow into deep social isolation. Ruth knew this feeling all too well. For years, she avoided hosting her grandchildren because her living room was crowded with boxes, and her dining table was buried under old papers. She once admitted, "I didn't want them to see the house like this. I thought they'd think less of me." But the truth was, her grandchildren just wanted to spend time with her. Isolation is more than just loneliness, it's a health risk. Studies show that seniors who experience chronic isolation face higher rates of depression, cognitive decline, and even shorter life expectancy. And often, clutter is the invisible wall that keeps loved ones at a distance. When Ruth finally started decluttering, something beautiful happened. She cleared enough space for her family to gather again, and the laughter and connection that returned to her home also returned to her heart. She said, with tears in her eyes, "I didn't realize how much I missed having people here until I opened the door again." Clutter can lock us away from the people who matter most. But clearing it doesn't just free space, it opens doors. It allows relationships to thrive, memories to be made, and joy to flow back into our lives. When we think about clutter, we often picture untidy rooms or crowded closets. But there's a danger that few seniors talk about: fire hazards. Cluttered homes, especially when filled with stacks of paper, old furniture, or unused appliances, can turn into dangerous fuel if a fire ever breaks out. Ruth's story makes this painfully real. One winter, she accidentally left a space heater running near a pile of magazines in her bedroom. Thankfully, her daughter visited just in time to catch the faint smell of burning paper. It was a close call that shook Ruth deeply. She realized her clutter wasn't just messy, it was dangerous. The National Fire Protection Association warns that cluttered homes not only increase the risk of fire but also make it harder to escape in an emergency. For seniors, whose mobility may already be limited, this risk can be life-threatening. Hallways blocked by boxes, doors jammed by piles, or overloaded outlets hidden by clutter all create silent but very real hazards. When Ruth finally cleared the magazines, excess furniture, and unused items from her bedroom, she felt an unexpected relief. "I sleep better now," she said, "knowing I've made my home safer for me and my family." Clutter may seem harmless, but in the wrong circumstances, it can become a silent threat. By clearing pathways, reducing paper piles, and letting go of unused items, you're not just tidying your space, you're protecting your life. One of the most overlooked dangers of clutter is also one of the most common: the risk of falls. For seniors, even a small trip can lead to broken bones, long recoveries, or a permanent loss of independence. And the heartbreaking truth is that much of this risk comes not from outside dangers, but from clutter inside the home. Ruth learned this the hard way. One evening, she got up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom. On her way through the hallway, she tripped over a box she had set aside to sort later. She fell hard, bruising her hip and scaring herself badly. Thankfully, she didn't break anything, but the fear stayed with her long after. She admitted, "I realized my own home had become unsafe for me." The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reports that falls are the leading cause of injury among seniors. And clutter, like loose rugs, stacked boxes, or crowded walkways, makes these accidents far more likely. What seems like a harmless pile of shoes by the door or a stack of magazines on the floor can become the obstacle that changes everything. After her fall, Ruth's daughter helped her clear the hallway and create clear walking paths throughout the house. The change was simple but life-saving. Ruth said, Now when I walk at night, I feel safe again. Clutter doesn't just weigh on the mind, it can physically endanger the body. Clearing it isn't about aesthetics, it's about protecting health, safety, and independence. We often think of clutter as just things out of place, but science tells us it can take a toll on the body in ways we don't expect. One of the most surprising links is between clutter and the immune system. When Ruth's home was crowded with stacks of papers, dusty shelves, and unused boxes, she noticed she was catching colds more often. At first, she thought it was just part of getting older. But researchers have found that chronic stress, which clutter often creates, weakens the immune response over time. Elevated cortisol levels, the body's main stress hormone, suppress the ability to fight infections, making seniors more vulnerable to illness. And then there's dust. Cluttered spaces are harder to clean, and piles of objects become magnets for dust, mold, and allergens. For seniors with asthma or weaker respiratory systems, this hidden buildup can lead to coughing, wheezing, or more frequent respiratory infections. After Ruth's daughter helped her clear and clean her home, Ruth noticed something remarkable. She wasn't getting sick as often. "It felt like my body could finally rest," she shared. The act of decluttering didn't just open up her home, it seemed to open up her health, too. The connection is simple but profound. When the home is lighter, the body feels lighter. By removing clutter, you don't just protect your space, you give your immune system the support it needs to keep you healthy. Sleep should be a time of restoration, when the mind and body recharge. But for many seniors, clutter quietly robs them of this essential rest. Ruth used to complain that no matter how early she went to bed, she often woke up feeling exhausted. Her bedroom was filled with old clothes, stacks of books, and even boxes of holiday decorations. She said, "It felt like my room was closing in on me." What she didn't realize was that cluttered bedrooms are directly linked to poor sleep quality. Studies from the American Academy of Sleep Medicine show that people who sleep in cluttered rooms are more likely to experience insomnia, restless nights, and even sleep disturbances like anxiety dreams. The brain struggles to fully relax in a chaotic environment because it interprets clutter as unfinished business. Instead of winding down, the mind stays alert, scanning the mess and sending subtle stress signals through the body. Once Ruth cleared her bedroom, keeping only her essentials like her bed, a lamp, and a few treasured photos, her nights began to change. She shared with a smile, "I finally felt like I was sleeping in a place of peace, not stress." Clutter doesn't just take up space, it takes up rest. And for seniors, good sleep is vital for memory, mood, and overall health. Creating a calm, uncluttered sleep environment can be one of the most healing gifts you give yourself. One of the most dangerous, yet least discussed, effects of clutter is how it interferes with medication safety. For seniors, where staying on top of prescriptions can mean the difference between stability and crisis, clutter can quietly put health at risk. Ruth discovered this when her daughter found 3 half-empty pill bottles in different parts of the house. One on the dining table, one in her purse, and another by her nightstand. Ruth admitted, "I couldn't remember which ones I had already taken." The clutter had scattered her medication routine, creating confusion and real danger. The National Institute on Aging warns that missed doses or accidental double dosing are common among seniors living in cluttered environments. When medications are lost under piles of papers, mixed with expired bottles, or spread across the home, the risk of errors increases dramatically. After Ruth's scare, her daughter helped her create a simple system: a clean, uncluttered drawer with a weekly pill organizer and a checklist. The change was immediate. Ruth said, "I felt more in control, and I stopped worrying if I had forgotten something." This is why experts stress that decluttering isn't just about order, it's about health protection. Clearing clutter from where medications are stored can mean fewer mistakes, less anxiety, and greater independence. Cluttered spaces make small mistakes easier and more dangerous. A clear, organized home, on the other hand, makes safety the default. Clutter doesn't just weigh down the body or create safety risks, it can quietly weigh down the spirit. For many seniors, living in cluttered spaces is deeply tied to feelings of sadness, hopelessness, and even depression. Ruth once described walking into her living room and feeling a heaviness settle over her. She said, "It was like the mess was a mirror of how stuck I felt inside." Psychologists confirm this experience. Cluttered environments send signals of chaos and lack of control, which can worsen depressive symptoms, especially in older adults who may already be coping with loss, loneliness, or declining health. A UCLA study found that women in cluttered homes had higher levels of cortisol, the stress hormone. Over time, chronic stress and constant feelings of overwhelm can push the brain toward fatigue and depression. For seniors, this can feel like a vicious cycle. The more clutter, the less energy and motivation to tackle it, and the deeper the sense of despair. But Ruth's story offers hope. After her daughter helped her start small, just clearing one corner of the living room, she noticed her mood begin to lift. "I felt lighter, like I could finally breathe again," she shared. With every bag donated, she wasn't just reclaiming space, she was reclaiming joy. The truth is, clutter and depression feed off each other. But the opposite is also true. Decluttering can open doors to renewed energy, brighter moods, and even a restored sense of purpose. Clutter doesn't just affect the person living in it, it ripples outward, quietly straining relationships with family and friends. Ruth admitted she often avoided inviting her neighbors over for tea because she was embarrassed by the piles in her home. "I worried they'd judge me," she whispered. That embarrassment led to isolation, and isolation led to loneliness. Many seniors share this silent struggle. Clutter becomes a wall, keeping people out. Family relationships can suffer too. Ruth's daughter once grew frustrated after trying to help her mother find an important document buried under a stack of magazines. "It feels like your home is working against you," she said, her voice breaking with worry. Clutter can create tension, not because loved ones don't care, but because they feel helpless watching the burden grow. Psychologists note that clutter often sparks feelings of shame, guilt, or defensiveness. Instead of opening the door to connection, it can lead to arguments, misunderstandings, or withdrawal. And for seniors, who already face risks of social isolation, this emotional distance can be especially damaging. But when Ruth began clearing small areas of her home, something beautiful happened. She felt proud again. She invited her sister over, smiling as they shared tea at a clear table. "I didn't realize how much I missed this," she said. The clutter hadn't just taken her space, it had stolen moments of joy with people she loved. Decluttering isn't only about creating a safer, calmer home. It's about rebuilding bridges, restoring dignity, and making space for the relationships that bring warmth and meaning to life. Clutter may look like a pile of harmless stuff, but what many seniors don't realize is that it often comes with a hidden price tag. Ruth learned this the hard way. One afternoon, while sorting through her kitchen drawer, she discovered she had purchased 3 identical pairs of reading glasses. Each time she misplaced one in the clutter, she assumed it was gone and bought another. "I didn't know I was throwing away money," she confessed, shaking her head. This isn't unusual. Studies show that people living in cluttered homes are more likely to overspend, buying duplicates of items they already own or wasting money on storage solutions to contain the excess. For seniors on fixed incomes, these costs can quietly chip away at financial security. There's also the cost of missed bills. Ruth once found an overdue electric bill buried under a pile of mail. The late fees, though small, added up over time. She admitted, "It wasn't just about the money. It was the stress of knowing I had slipped up." For seniors, those small mistakes can be both financially and emotionally draining. Psychologists say clutter increases what's called cognitive load, the brain's processing demand. When your mind is already distracted by piles and disorganization, it's easier to overlook responsibilities like paying bills, managing medications, or budgeting wisely. And every oversight has consequences. But once Ruth began decluttering, she noticed something remarkable. Her spending slowed. She knew what she had, she paid bills on time, and she even started setting aside money for small joys, like treating herself to fresh flowers each week. Clutter doesn't just steal space, it quietly steals money. Decluttering, on the other hand, puts both peace of mind and financial control back into your hands. Each year that clutter builds, the weight, both physical and emotional, grows heavier. And in 2025, experts are warning seniors that the risks are greater than ever. Why? Because life expectancy is rising, but so are the challenges of aging. As we live longer, maintaining independence becomes even more critical. Yet clutter has been shown to increase falls, raise stress levels, and worsen memory issues, all threats to staying independent at home. Ruth shared something that struck me deeply. She said, "I thought I had plenty of time to deal with it later. But later never came. The piles just grew, and I grew more tired." Her words echo what many seniors feel, that decluttering can wait. But the truth is, waiting only makes it harder. Psychologists and doctors agree. Clutter compounds over time, both in volume and in impact. The longer we delay, the more overwhelming it feels, and the more health risks pile on. 2025 is a turning point, not just because it's a new year, but because it's a chance to choose differently, to protect health, reduce stress, and reclaim joy before clutter steals more years of peace. And here's the most hopeful part. Starting doesn't have to mean finishing everything. Even small, steady steps today can prevent tomorrow's crises. As Ruth discovered, one clear table led to more open spaces, and each little victory lifted her energy, her confidence, and her safety. So if you've been waiting for the right time, let this be your reminder: the time is now. Decluttering in 2025 isn't about tidiness, it's about safeguarding your health, your independence, and your future. One of the biggest reasons seniors avoid decluttering is the belief that it has to be all or nothing, that you must tackle the entire house in one exhausting push. But the truth is, lasting change comes from small, gentle steps taken consistently. When Ruth finally found the courage to begin, she didn't start with her attic full of memories or her overflowing closets. She started with a single drawer in her kitchen. She set a timer for just 15 minutes, cleared out expired coupons and broken gadgets, and when she finished, she felt a surge of relief. "I can do this," she thought. That one drawer became a spark. Experts recommend beginning with what they call quick wins. Focus on areas you use daily, like your nightstand, kitchen counter, or entryway table. These spaces give you immediate relief, making your home feel calmer without draining your energy. Next, create what psychologists call safety zones. Clear walkways, remove tripping hazards, and ensure that items you use every day, like medications, glasses, or keys, have a designated spot. This isn't just about organization. It's about protecting your independence and dignity. Then, as you build momentum, move toward categories like clothing, papers, and eventually sentimental items. Save the hardest things for last, because by then, you'll have the confidence and clarity to make those tougher decisions without feeling overwhelmed. And here's the most important part. Don't do it alone. Ask a trusted friend, a family member, or even a local support group to walk this journey with you. Studies show that shared accountability makes progress both easier and more joyful. Ruth's daughter joined her on weekends, and what started as decluttering turned into treasured time together, filled with laughter and stories. Decluttering doesn't have to be a dreaded task. When done step by step, it becomes a healing process, one that restores peace, lightens your heart, and gives you back control of your space and your future. Ruth's journey wasn't perfect, it was human. Some days she made progress, other days she felt stuck, staring at boxes she couldn't yet open. But what mattered most was that she kept going, one step at a time. At first, her goal was simple: to clear the surfaces she used daily. Within a few weeks, her nightstand, once buried under glasses, pill bottles, and half-read books, held only a lamp, her reading glasses, and one favorite novel. She told me, "When I wake up now, I feel calm instead of cluttered." Then came her kitchen. By creating a clear counter, she rediscovered the joy of cooking simple meals. "It's funny," she laughed. "I used to avoid cooking because the clutter stressed me out. Now I look forward to making soup for myself and my daughter." The biggest change, however, came when she tackled her sentimental items. Ruth had boxes of her late husband's belongings that she hadn't touched in years. She admitted, "I thought letting go meant forgetting him." But with her daughter's support, she chose to keep just a few items: a sweater, a photo album, and a watch. "Instead of drowning in memories, I can now cherish the ones I've kept," she said softly. Psychologists call this a shift from emotional overload to emotional clarity. By keeping fewer things, Ruth gave more meaning to what remained, and her grief transformed into peace. Today, Ruth's home feels lighter, and so does her spirit. She no longer worries about tripping hazards, forgotten bills, or losing track of important items. But more than that, she's regained something priceless, a sense of control, dignity, and calm. Her story reminds us that decluttering is not just about creating order in our homes, it's about creating order in our hearts and minds. It's proof that transformation is possible at any age, and that it begins with a single step. As we close this journey, I want you to remember Ruth's story, not because it was perfect, but because it was real. Her struggles were the same ones so many seniors quietly face: the weight of too many things, the guilt of letting go, the fear of change. But her courage to take one step, then another, shows what's possible. Clutter isn't just about mess. It's about health, peace, and the quality of life we carry into our later years. Left unchecked, it creates stress, raises safety risks, and chips away at the joy we deserve to feel each day. But when we choose to declutter, even in small ways, we reclaim more than space. We reclaim freedom, calm, and dignity. So here's my invitation to you. Don't wait for tomorrow. Pick one spot today, your nightstand, your kitchen counter, or that chair piled with clothes, and clear it. Notice the difference it makes, not just in your home, but in your heart. Let that one act become the spark for more. And if Ruth's story has touched you, don't keep it to yourself. Share this video with a friend, a sibling, or a parent who may be struggling in silence. And if you want more gentle guidance, encouragement, and stories just like this, subscribe to this channel. Together, we can build homes and lives that feel lighter, freer, and filled with peace. Remember, decluttering is not about losing, it's about gaining. Gaining clarity, gaining joy, gaining back the life you truly want to live. Take the first step today. You're not just clearing space, you're opening the door to a calmer, brighter tomorrow.